So I've got Carl Drago, who's the CEO of Cyber-Construction. They're based in Chicago. They offer a whole suite of services for small and mid-sized and even large businesses that stem from starting the branding of your business, like buying your domain, building your website, promoting your business, but really where you'll find that we're asking Carl to lean in is they provide you all those IT services and managed services to ensure that your business operations are up and running great. And then I've got the amazing, notorious Jessica Guilfoyle, who's the director of marketing at Mediacom Business, which Mediacom Cable is actually the fifth largest telecom company in the United States. They're one of the fastest growing, and they started out as a small business. They're owned by a single person, Rocco Commisso, who started the company like, I don't know, 4 or 5 decades ago, or was it 3 decades ago?
We are just under 30 years
80s.
old.
Yes, so see, in the time that I was still figuring myself out, Rocco was building a multi-billion-dollar company, and he literally he is an inspiration for every small business owner in America. He started the company and kind of in his backyard or in his, garage, and now
Garage.
it's this behemoth, right? And so that's why I'm so thrilled that she's here because as she mentioned earlier in our little chat, Mediacom Business is a whole different a division of Mediacom Communications, and they focus just on business, and small business is a big part of what they do. So let's kick it off. So I've got a question that's on the screen for the panel of experts. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some data first. So we actually, as the owner of BeTechly, I work with this team using my 30 years of experience. We've got a whole team that does research, events like this to share our research, and we facilitate all kind of interactions so that business technology buyers and decision makers can access experts like Jessica and Carl. So one of our studies is focused on the tech investment strategies of small and mid-sized business owners. It's a study that's going to go on for the whole of 2024. We've got a little bit less than 100 people that have participated so far, and we asked them what are their plans? Where do they want to improve using technology this year? And so data security, and as Carl mentioned also earlier, AI and operations. Those are the big three. There were a few other areas, and we've got a couple on screen, but the big three that small business owners are focusing on right now are data security, AI, and operations. So I'm gonna turn it over to my experts and ask you guys this question. What tech is a must have for small and mid-sized businesses today? So I'll start with
I,
Carl.
oh,
That's no problem. So, I mean, obviously, looking at this graph here, we see what the big concerns are, and they are must-haves. Not only is it data security, it is cybersecurity. This involves your email, your local machines and
Mm,
devices, your
mm,
mobile devices. A lot of people now, especially after the pandemic, are working mobile. We're no
mhm.
longer all confined to one single office. We are spread out. So it's no longer a single network that has to be covered. It has to be all of this technology. So in a nutshell, when it comes down to security, that's definitely important. Quick touch on operations. Again, you have people working in remote locations. How do you manage their IT? There are a lot of new solutions built around that are definitely a must-have.
Absolutely. So if I were to summarize, data cybersecurity, which goes through all your digital devices, is a must-have. And would you say that a lot of small businesses have that today, or is it still being adopted?
I think it's still being adopted. I don't know if a lot of this, especially the smaller businesses, don't realize the impact it could have. And they may think that the larger corporations are the ones being targeted. That is really not the case.
Yeah. So that takes me over to Jess. So back on this topic of cybersecurity. Now I know you guys, you have like advanced data security built into your internet. So could you talk to
we
us about
do.
that? And I'm
So
actually going to go off sharing so everyone can see us.
it really is critical for small businesses to install some line of defense against cyber threats. You've got malware, you've got ransomware, phishing, and these awful botnet infections that are floating around there. The numbers and the types are actually horrifying. So when I was sort of preparing for this, searching around, and these are things that we have on our website as well, but the more you look, the scarier it is. If you look at a company like Verizon, who does a lot of studies on cybersecurity and threats, 82% of all ransomware attacks actually target small business
Oh,
organizations.
wow.
And in most cases, which makes total sense, the primary motive behind a cyber attack obviously is for financial gain, right? The perception is that small businesses offer an easier target compared to larger organizations because their perimeter defenses are
Lower.
easier to get through.
Yeah.
And again, the perception is that the people who are working in smaller businesses, and keep in mind that could be one person, 20 people, is that they haven't put proper precautions in place. And we're finding that to be very true.
And is that why you guys baked it into your internet connection?
It is why we baked it in. So I was actually on a webinar yesterday with IDC, and they do a ton of research as well. And their research actually shows, just like you said, that over 50% of SMBs said that one of their number one focuses over the next 12 months is going to be to update or get security for their
Yeah.
network.
So here's the
And
question, you guys. Is a lot of small business owners in the research I've done use consumer grade tech. They use a consumer grade computers and they get the free websites, from Wix or something. They get a lot of this sort of quasi consumer sort of business tech, including their internet. Um, is that a wise move right now? I would love both of your perspectives before we move on to the next data point. So I'll start with
um,
Jess and then I'll go to Carl.
Okay, thanks. So really, the number one recommendation before you start anything is to get business grade internet at the speed that's right for you. So listen, we understand that as a small business, costs need to be contained. That's, a no-brainer. But proper broadband is one of those places that you really can't skip. You have to
Yeah.
consider your speed level carefully and also take a few things into account as they affect your speed. So yes, there's residential. However, the one thing that you have to keep in mind when you're determining not only your business speed, your business internet is the actual speed, but also things like what affects my speed. So
Yeah.
you'll see different speeds, 100, 300, a gig. I mean, there's information out there aplenty, but there are things that you might have working at your facility that are working against you. And one of those things are network devices, right? Routers, switches, they can make a big difference in how well your internet performs and the speeds that you're experiencing. So things even beyond the capability of your computer is playing a role. I mean, I can go through them all and happy to, if
Yes.
you'd like to hear them.
Well, one-on-one, yeah. You know what? If anybody is experiencing that, then definitely, reach out. We're going to co-facilitate. They can talk to you, Jess. But I want to hear what Carl, his comment on about that. These quasi-consumer tech. Is that right for a small business? You were just talking about one that just started. So why shouldn't do just start with some old, do a little Facebook, do a little free website? Why make the investment to work with cyber construction to get the fancy,
Right.
the business grade stuff like Jess was talking about?
Sure. And what Jessica said was right on the money, of course, right? But as this new business that I'm working with has just started, money
Hmm.
is a big factor for them right now. They realize they need certain things in place, but they are juggling as to where they're going to spend that initial investment. If they necessarily can't afford that, the business grade stuff right now. I respect that. But that does not mean that there are not other alternative solutions out there as well. You can't simply state, well, I'm going to put this off a little bit and save the money for something else. You still have to take into consideration that you are building a business.
Right.
You need that security in some fashion, right? These are the
Right.
people that are going to have a brand new email address that is not being monitored or tracked for
No.
anything, right? They might be putting credit card information through, which of course we all know is a big no-no, but people do that anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's aside from the security, there's also an education factor as well as to what a new business, aside from the technology, how do they actually perform their tasks, their duties? There is technology that actually helps a company do that also, that will point out, wow, one of your employees sent out credit card information. It flags that.
Oh,
It
wow.
makes it known. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a lot of different things that can and should be put into place. And when considering costs, and again, I know small businesses starting out are looking at every single penny. I'm aware of
Yeah.
that, but save a penny now and spend a lot of money 2 months from now is a huge difference. You definitely want to be careful. I have horror stories of costs in excess of, I believe it was $6 million from one of
Oh my
my
gosh.
clients who
Hmm.
was hijacked.
Oof.
They had their email hijacked,
Wow. Hmm.
and somebody was using that to send out false invoices to their clients
Oh my gosh.
with money transfer requests. We all caught
Oh my
that in
gosh.
time. I
Hmm.
actually worked with the cybersecurity department of the FBI on this particular
Oh,
case. It
wow.
was, you don't realize how impactful it really could be until it happens.
Yeah.
It's like fire insurance or insurance on your home. We
Yeah.
hope nothing ever happens, right? We
Yeah.
hope. But
Yeah.
if it does and you're not prepared, what's the outcome? You have
Such a
to
great
really
point.
consider that.
Yeah. So that takes me to our next question and data point. So I'm gonna share again. Um, and all right. Oh, okay. So Ella's sharing. All right, cool. So, I've got a data point that I want to walk through, and I'd like to load that on the screen. Okay. So we talked about a lot of stuff of what we see, but here's some of the things. And Jess, I bet you saw that in the webinar you joined yesterday from IDC that's also researching with small and mid-sized businesses, what are their challenges? So we've talked about it, how do you afford tech? And I think that both cyber construction and MediaCom business have come up with great ways, right? You pay for monthly services, you've got managed services, ways to kind of lower the ongoing cost of things so you can get access to some great tech and great expertise at, a couple $100 a month or a few $100 a month or what have you. But the two things I'd love for you guys to talk about is, and Carl, you mentioned it, keeping up with or understanding new technologies and finding providers that really can serve your business or give you advice. So, what's too small to work with a company like Cyber Construction? And for those guys that might be really, really tiny, one person, it sounds like it's not such a thing, but if it was, where do they go to get advice?
No, and you know what? It is such a thing. We
Hmm.
have quite a bit of clients right now that, for example, are accountants. They're
Hmm.
one person. They might even be working from home their entire career.
Hmm.
There's nothing too small for us. We still manage those people as well. And as far as understanding or affording that new technology, we consult. So I have clients call me saying, I think my computer's getting too old. Can you take a look at it, make recommendations? So
Hmm.
we could do that for them. For
Hmm.
our company, there is nobody too small. We
Yeah.
manage everything from one person to 10,000 plus, to be perfectly
Wow.
honest. So we
Wow.
have a wide gamut of what we cover.
Us too, us too. So I'm gonna ask you a question and then I'm gonna turn it over to Jess about, is there such a thing as too small and, how do small businesses address their challenges within a budget? Um, so my question is about AI and I'd love both of you to talk about it, but I'm gonna start with Carl is, I actually did a session, a training earlier this year about AI and marketing, and there's like all these tools for AI, and there's tools for small business, and there's people talking about how small businesses are using chat GPT. But, is AI a fad? And if it isn't, is it appropriate for a small business?
It's definitely not a fad. If anything, it's only going to grow and
Mhm.
expand. And there are things that use AI right now that people don't realize are using
Mm.
AI.
Mhm.
You had mentioned Chat GPT. All those fun robocalls that we all get and just love so much. A lot of that is IA based too, right?
Oh,
So I pick up a
interesting.
call and nobody's there. I hang up. Well, guess what happens? That's flagged as somebody answered the phone. Now that just moved me on to the next segment of
Interesting.
their process, right?
Hmm.
I mentioned the cybersecurity earlier, that the tools, and Jessica's tools may be a little different, but the tools that we use right now have AI built in. It's not something that the end user has to really worry themselves too much about. It's built into the software. So even if they're not aware what's being used and how it's being processed, AI is built into that. So I guess
Mm.
my point is, it's not going away. It's only
Hmm.
going to grow, and we may not realize how much we're using it currently.
Already.
Mm.
Interesting. What's your take on it, Jess?
Well, like you said, Carl, it is just as an example, our security that is built in to our service actually is AI driven. So it's
Wow.
machine learning, right? So it learns as it goes, and it also constantly scans um, websites that you're going in and out of, and and it can find and block those that are malicious or phishing. So,
Hmm.
I mean, really, truly, I think that AI is one of those things that it's a really big buzzword.
Yeah.
And there's so many pieces and parts that are involved in it, and it is going to affect every single level of work that we
Mhm.
do in the coming
Yeah.
years. Just like Carl said, we're not really in its infancy, actually. Really, we've been
Hmm.
using it
It's
for a
been around
really
for a
long
while.
time, and
Yeah.
right, and it just wasn't discussed quite as much as it's being discussed now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
So
you've
I'm
got
gonna ask one more question. For what do you guys think? Because the session's like what new tech. So the new tech, if I were to summarize, is better security, right? Because security is not new, but there's always new stuff with security, right? Now you've got AI enabled security, and there's always going to be layers of new security that you really should have. So hands up, is security a must-have for the average small business today, no matter how small? I would say yes. What do you guys think? What's your vote? Hands up.
100% without
Yeah.
question.
there's no
Without
Without,
question.
question,
yes, yes. All right. So
absolutely no
that's really
question.
the message, guys, for the small business owners and professionals that are on. Like, if you haven't been really evaluating your security strategy as a company, I'm not talking about as a person, you might have great, methodologies as a person to keep your personal email and your personal self safe. But for your company, what policy do you have? What kind of technologies are you using? What kind of service providers do you have? What kind of solutions? It's a whole stack. And the bigger your company, the more that's involved, right? But
Absolutely.
there's no size. I think what I'm really hearing from both of you is that it doesn't matter how small you are. You could have just started. And that what's actually really important is even if you just form your business and you're still figuring out your website and stuff, that's when you actually need to start with security. So 30
Exactly.
years ago, it was like get a fax number, get a business card, right? Now it's, get data security, then get email, right? And then build your
Right.
website.
And we're
So
lucky
that's the
enough
big message.
that our internet includes data security. So
Yeah,
it really is a must-have. And we did
yeah,
that recently just because, we've sold it all along as an add-on,
yeah.
but it doesn't make sense anymore for our customers, for anybody.
Makes
So
sense.
now when you get internet, you're automatically getting a good level of service to protect you from all those thieving people out there.
Yes. And then you can layer on something like a provider,
Right.
like Cyber-Construction. So I would summarize as an expert, because I have one more question for the group, is what's the next must have? And I would say it's a provider, right? A managed service provider. So of course your core connectivity, you cannot run a business these days without great internet. And the thing is, where you might be like, what? Your consumer grade internet or your sort of neutral, we're neither, right? Internet is probably not sufficient, guys. And this is now when you've got to really be looking at the core infrastructure of your business. I have an office here in the mountains of Globe, Arizona. I have, a home office in my house in Scottsdale. And do you know I have business grade internet in both places? It costs more money, than the residential grade, but I need exactly what these two experts have been talking about. I need the security, I need the better connectivity, I need service during business
Yeah.
hours,
That was
right?
actually going to be one of my comments. One of the things that you have to take into consideration when you're running a business is the service and the level of service. So
Yeah.
depending on your provider, obviously, not everybody's going to be in the MediaCom footprint, but business accounts should always be getting enhanced priority service, meaning if a technician or a customer service representative can't get you past whatever your issues might be, and they have to roll a truck, you want to make sure that they are there in a timely fashion. You don't want to hear,
Yeah.
well, we'll be there next week. So you want to make sure that they can get there within X amount of hours. For us, it's 4 hours maximum.
Mhm.
And then we give you 30-minute windows. I'm smiling just because I was thinking about that old joke of, the cable guy, and, he'll be there whenever, and, I'll be there sometime between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So we do give you 30-minute windows
That's really great.
so
Yeah.
that we can get you up and running. Understand that it's money that could be coming out of your pocket otherwise.
Yeah, and you don't get that when you have a residential connection, right?
No,
Even though you might be like, oh, I got the super residential for gamers and it's really fast and it's great, but you don't get
exactly.
that priority service.
Business
And
is
if they need to
priority.
do, yeah, and if they need to do maintenance on the network, they're going to do it during business hours, right? On the residential service because they want it to be up in the evening when you're not working. So
Hey guys,
those are some
excuse me,
things.
2 minutes for this
Thank you.
slide.
Thank you. So, Carl, as our chief technologist in this conversation, outside of security and AI, what other stuff this is what small business owners are thinking about, but what other stuff should they be thinking about that wasn't on the list?
There's so much, truthfully, there really is. But the one thing that I kind of mentioned before, and it's something that we do, and I realize we're very low on time, so I will not dig deep
Go
into
for it.
this,
Go for it. Yeah.
is help desk. You
Mm,
might be one person, you might be three people, you might be 5,000 people, and think you have an IT support staff on within your organization. But a help desk is something that could provide you with 24/7 support. You will
yeah.
always have support. Jessica just mentioned, who are you going to call? Who are you going to deal with? What's the response times? Part of our service even includes dealing with, for example, somebody like MediaCom. You
Mm,
don't want to deal with that? We could do that for you. So
cool.
it's taking away, you know your business. You're good at what you do. Let all of us do what we're good at and help you with that. You shouldn't have to worry and think about that. It should just be on the back burner. If there is an issue, you're going to make one phone call and take care of it. And even with new technology, as it keeps coming out, that's what we do is we consult. We talk to clients based on immediate needs. What's just happened? What's new on the horizon?
Yeah.
It's ever changing. It's like waves in an ocean. It's never the same wave twice, right?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, it's a lot of technology people take for granted. They just assume they buy a computer, it works, it's fine. You should always
Not
plan
anymore.
ahead. Always plan
Yeah.
ahead.
I
Exactly.
love it.
I mean,
So if
you don't have
please,
time
Jen.
to run your business, right? Run your business
Yeah.
Exactly, Jessica.
and keep it running, keep the technology running in the background, worrying about your phone service, worrying about your network. It's really, really crucial to have somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I think even though we have more data to share, I'm gonna skip it because we've had such a good conversation. But I'm gonna recap for everyone in the audience. And of course, we produce these and we publish them on our channels and YouTube, so everyone can gain access to this great conversation and the insight. But I'm gonna wrap up, and we're gonna showcase this in our blog. Is the three things that every small business owner needs today is a cybersecurity strategy. So not data security, cybersecurity, and that's got to include your entire peripheral, right? All your devices, all your endpoints, everything, your perimeter defense. And that really should ride on top of number two, business grade connections. So business grade internet, business grade solutions, business grade devices, business grade providers, right? Business grade connections. And then the last thing that is the thing that I think every small business owner and mid-sized business owner should be thinking about is, our research shows that only about a third of them work with a provider like Carl, and only a portion of them work with a business grade provider for like internet or something like that. And because there's so many quasi, pretty high power consumer or residential grade offerings out there. But I would say 2024 is probably that year where you've got to rethink that. And yeah, it's half the price or it's even a fraction, but there's a high cost for you having that residential grade solution, running your business on top of it. And this is the year that you've got to really rethink that. And the year that you find who are your allies, right? Who's in your camp. And I think Carl did a great job of saying how, there are companies like his, and he's special, but there are a few others. He's in Chicago, and I think he serves clients all over, right? Is that right, Carl? Yep, serves clients all over. But there a few other companies that are as awesome as Cyber-Construction. But either way, you've got to pick one of those guys, right? You've got to find one of those providers that focus on small business. And actually, I spend a lot of time as the owner of BeTechly and as the head of Change3 working with literally hundreds of technology solution providers, and there are really not that many that are like Carl, who we've got the CEO here. There are lots that serve larger companies. You've got $200 million or, $50 million company. You've got 100 employees, loads of providers that serve those. But honestly, there's only really been a handful where I've had the CEO say, there's no business too small and I'll help them. So I'm really, really pleased to have Carl here. And he is somebody, if you can't talk to Carl, make sure you find somebody like him because there really aren't that many that will actually pick up the phone and take the time to give you that advice. Because that's really where we're at, people. Technology has become so integrated in how we do business, how we live our lives, that for that business owner, every business owner, you might have a great idea and it's probably got tech involved in it, but there's so many layers below that to ensure you're secure. You've got a robust business operation that's got availability, right? You're not going down. And so that requires the expertise of someone like Carl.